Thank you for joining us this week on the Theory of Anything podcast. We're here to talk to you about competitive gaming as a career, the Charlottesville incident from this past week, and the prejudices that it has brought up in our nation.
So me and you have been a part of the FGC, the fighting game community, for, what is it, 6 years?
It's closer to 5 because, I mean, we started playing with, I started playing when I was like 5, but, I mean, started seriously playing with Mortal Kombat 2011, but we weren't, like, competitively minded. You know, we were training to beat the computer and training to beat our friends. So training to beat other people in a tournament setting, that kind of began about January 2012, leading up to final round of that year in March of 2012. That was really how it began, us being part of the FGC with Mortal Kombat 9.
In your opinion, what generation, assuming that a generation is each game, so since 2011, Mortal Kombat 9, to today, which is Injustice 2, that's 4 games. That's Mortal Kombat 9, that's Injustice 1, that's Mortal Kombat X, and now Injustice 2. Which generation do you think is the hardest to compete in?
Okay, first of all, I kind of got like a two-part answer to this, because I feel like the present generation is the hardest to compete in, but it's because I feel like the number of people who take the game seriously and want to compete has increased, because the money behind it has increased. So the number of people who want to compete has increased. So I feel like right now is the hardest time to compete in the FGC because the money is behind it. It's growing fast. And with that, it seems like that increases the difficulty level because there's more people who are treating this like a job than there were 5 years ago.
So you think it has nothing to do with the game itself. It has to do with the number of people competing? Absolutely.
I honestly think reaching the top level of a particular fighting game is the same as it has always been. I don't feel like being a top level competitor in MK9, other than the game's flawed balance, is harder than being a top player in Injustice 2. I feel like being a top player viewed by the community as a top player is harder because more humans are trying to be that top player. There's more people. Somebody who you think is a god right now, godlike compared to your own skills, is probably going to not make top 8 next week. It's somebody who's really good is not guaranteed to top 8 anymore. When in the past, somebody who was really good, well, that's top 8. Your great players or your top 8 players.
But don't you see the same few players in every top 8?
I do, and they're that much better. I honestly believe that, like, you know, Sonic, Fox, Dragon, Theo, I believe they're on a level that's beyond the majority of the community.
For those not privy to the FGC, Sonic, Fox, Theo, and Dragon are players. That's their handle that they go by when they compete. Go ahead.
Yes, I feel like these three, and a few more. I'm not calling anybody out if I didn't say your name. These people are so well practiced. They're treating this like a job. They're consistently placing every single time they go. But in these days, they're going through a field of killers. There's a player like Samij, which for people who aren't familiar to the FGC, he's killing it every single week in online tournaments, and they got to go through a guy like him. They gotta, and he is a threat to win the tournament. He's a top 8 player as well. They got to go through players like Honeybee, who, you know, he's literally the best player in an entire country. He's the best player in Canada, bar none.
He just got second at Evolution, which Evolution is basically the Super Bowl of fighting games. It's the World Championships.
This is a guy who, he's second in the world. This is a guy who just made top 8 in losers in the last, like, he lost a game on the way to top 8. He's the second best player in the world as far as how we gauge, things off evolution. We would gauge Dragon as the best player in the world, even though he just, he got 7th at the most recent tournament and got wiped by some other people. And he's a great player too. We're at a point where being a great player doesn't guarantee you results anymore. That's what I was trying to reel into, is like, being a great player does not guarantee results anymore, because another great player is probably going to run into you on your way up. The number of people who I would call great has increased. So I would say right now is a harder time to make top 8 or to win a tournament than it has ever been. But the skill cap to reach the max of the game, that's roughly the same. It's just that the number of people who are doing it has increased.
Okay. So Tom Brady, which that's not his real name. His real name is Bill, but his handle is Tom Brady. He was probably the very first person that I learned about when I was looking into competitive fighting games. I believe him and Pig of the Hut were first 2 players that I could recognize. But
it was him and Rio for me. But Tom still.
Okay. So Tom Brady is probably the most recognized face, especially in the NetherRealm Studio community of fighting games. And he released a video talking about the different generations of games and the player mentality within it. And he was, I don't know, would you say that he was complaining? Is that the? I don't feel like
he was complaining. I really don't. I feel like he was just talking about how quickly the FGC forgets. I feel like that's what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm. Because he's been doing it for so much longer than we have. We came into it with probably the first big competitive game that NRS has come out with, but he's been in it since the early 90s. Is that right?
Correct. 92 according to him.
Yeah, so that's quite a number of years.
25 years.
Yeah,
that's 25 years.
And because I don't know the full story, I believe it was you that told me how he was given the name Tom Brady. Tell everyone how he got the name Tom Brady as his handle.
All right. If I remember the story right from a different podcast I watched where he talked about it, he was given the name Tom Brady because A, he won a lot, and B, he used to wear a bunch of football jerseys to tournaments, but he got in the habit of wearing Tom Brady's repeatedly, and people just started calling him Brady. So he didn't from what I understand, from what I remember from him telling the story himself on a different podcast from, again, this is from like 2012. So we covered last episode how fallible human memory is. But if I remember all of this right from his own story, he was winning tournaments wearing a Tom Brady jersey, and people started calling him Tom Brady because they didn't know who he was other than that, and he kind of rolled with it. So that's if I remember, that's how he got his name. If my memory is correct, and in this particular case, it probably is.
Okay. Well, back on point, he made a video just a few days ago. I'm trying to remember what he said because I don't want to put words in his mouth. But he was, I guess you put it the best, that it seems like each generation forgets the accomplishments of older players, especially someone like Brady who has been around for so long. Because the running joke in the NRS community is to give Brady a hard time. He's become the person that you make fun of just to get a rise out of him.
Well, he's kind of done that to himself though, because like he responds to this shit. Like, he could ignore it, but he will respond, and it's become one of these things where like he's probably one of the most logical minds in the community, but he's also one of the more emotional people in the community. So like when those two things blend together, he'll present a well-reasoned point in a really emotional way.
Yeah.
That makes it difficult to take him fully seriously at times. And that's dating back to the MK9 days. That's dating back like 5 years ago.
Right. So,
well, he'll present something now, and people want to do that to him now, but he's not doing what they remember. He's dead serious now. He's dead serious. And they still want to just like throw stones at this guy because, well, that's the habit they've built, is we attack Tom. And Tom right now, in my mind, especially with this latest video, which we're about to get into here in a second, is the only person in the community who's talking about this and is talking sense about this particular issue, and they still want to go after him. They want to go after him because he wants busts for his character, and his character is bottom 3, but we won't get too into balance of the current game, but his character is crap, and he wants improvements, and they want...
the majority of the people will give a shit about that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's one of these things where, like, his character's crap, he's actually honestly saying that his character's crap, and since he's complained about that, everybody just wants to label him as a complainer and whiner, as if his points aren't valid when he's talking about something else, even though his points are valid when he's talking about his own character to begin with, because all that. But anyways.
All right. So not only was he talking about the different generations of players sort of downplaying or forgetting the accomplishments of older players, he was also talking about how competitive gaming, at least fighting games, isn't a legitimate way to actually make a career out of. Basically his arguing point was there wasn't enough money in competitive fighting games where you could make a living. Now you take someone like Sonic Fox, who is the best player in our community, in the NRS community. He's won more tournaments than I believe anybody.
That'd be correct. He definitely, like, he's in the lead for tournaments won.
Right. And if all the things that he's won, all the things that he's placed high enough to where he gets money, I want to say what Brady said was that he made $300,000 within 4 years. Now you hear $300,000 for playing video games, that's amazing, but that's stretched between 4 years. And you got to think about different games.
So $75K a year.
So over 4 years, $300,000. But you take another game like StarCraft or League of Legends. Those are $1 million tournaments. If you win first place, you get at least $1 million right there. So to put that in perspective to the fighting game community, now granted, the biggest community in the FGC is probably the Capcom community, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely. It's like not even close. They're bigger by a wide margin.
Right.
Because even players of other games, they still play Street Fighter. And what about you? I mean, I'm an NRS player. You're an NRS player. You play Street Fighter, don't you?
I don't.
You play it. You have. We've played it together.
I have, but just with my personal life requirements, I can't practice 2 games.
Right, okay, but you can't. But you've still taken the time to play it. Well, hardcore Street Fighter players, they don't take the time to play our games and other games like this. They don't need to. But it's one of those games that, like, everybody plays it. It's almost cultural at this point. They're kind of the way I would define them is they broke fighting games to the masses back in the 1990s. Capcom did with Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and Street Fighter 3. Those 3 games really brought fighting games to the masses through the arcades and through home console ports. So their community has grown so large that even if you play another game and you're passionate about another game, you probably can and enjoy Street Fighter. You probably can play and can enjoy Street Fighter.
Okay. But the point I was trying to make was that I don't know how much money is in Capcom games because I don't compete in Capcom games. But if Sonic Fox is the most accomplished fighter or player in the NRS community and he's made $300,000 over 4 years, that's probably the low end of fighting games, and that's probably the low end. I mean, that definitely is the low end on competitive gaming overall. You know, you have Call of Duty tournaments, you have Madden tournaments. I don't know how much Madden pays out, but I know Call of Duty, you can get a lot more money than that.
Madden pays out pretty strong. They've got EA behind them, so they pay out pretty damn strong. Yeah. But it's one of those things where, like, you look at that and it's good money, but you look at what he did to get it. He was winning just about everything. During that time period that they're talking about, he won a $100,000 prize during that time period that they're talking about.
I don't know about you, but that's life-changing money to me.
It's life-changing money, but look at it as a career. Is it there? Is it there and reliably there?
Well,
I mean, if you're a wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, your $2 million contract over 4 years is $500,000 each year, plus any endorsements and things you get. So, I mean, it might be stair-stepped. It might be one of those contracts where, like, to encourage you not to leave the team or get traded, where you get, like, you know, more money increasingly each year, and maybe your last year's the $750,000 chunk of the $2 million.
Okay.
But that's neither here nor there. The money he's making is not reliable. It's reliable on him winning. He only makes that if he continues to win at the rate he wins. And
that's basically what Brady was saying.
Yeah, we're getting into this part of it because it relies on him always winning to make that kind of money.
But Brady also mentioned in his video that he's a Capcom player. His name is Daigo. Daigo's one of the best players in Capcom.
He's honestly probably the best. He's the legend that broke their scene to the masses. As far as like mass recognition, he's number one. He's the most recognizable fighting game player in the world.
I believe it's either him or Justin Wong. Justin Wong and him are probably the Tom Brady of the Capcom community.
Oh, Daigo is so legendary. Like, you know, the infamous video, the Evo moment where he parried the entire super of Chun-Li and then punished it for full with Ken and got that comeback.
I know what you're talking about, but people listening have no idea what you're talking about.
Just look up Daigo Justin Wong Evo moment, and you'll see everything he does in there. Every time you see that pop spark, that's frame perfect. That's him parrying an entire super.
And explain frame perfect.
It's down to 1/60th of a second. Everything he's doing is down to 1/60th of a second.
Right.
So here's how famous Daigo is. Daigo didn't win that set or that Evo. He's known for that moment. He's known for how smart of a player he is. And his most famous moment is from a set he didn't win. Justin Wong won that set, and Justin Wong won that Evo.
It was just one of those oh my god moments, because it was such a display of technical skill that it was so impressive that it became probably the most memorable Evolution moment ever.
It's such a hard thing to do that in Street Fighter 3, the re-release they did for consoles recently, I say recently, but it was really like 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. The final challenge of Trials is trying to repeat what they call Evo moment, whatever number they give it, is trying to repeat that, trying to parry Chun-Li's entire super and then go into his own super. And it was really brilliant. But Daigo is an outlier. He was a chess champion before he even played fighting games. The dude is,
so he's pretty smart.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's not pretty smart. Dude's brilliant. Like, he was a.
Do any dumb people play chess?
I mean, they probably play it, but they probably don't win.
Yeah, I play chess, and I'm pretty dumb, especially when it comes to chess.
Same. I guarantee you, if Daigo played me, he'd probably win in 5 moves.
But once we kind of went off topic just so we could explain who Daigo is and why he's so important to not just the Capcom community, but the entirety of the fighting game community. But what Brady was saying in his video was that Daigo, the way his sponsorship works, and that's a thing with players. If you're good enough and a company thinks that you could be a positive representation of them, they will sponsor you. They'll pay for you to go to tournaments and to compete. But the way Daigo's sponsorship works is that it doesn't matter if he gets first or he gets last place. I was about to say 0-2, but 0-2 means that you didn't win at all. You lost your first 2 matches and you're out of the tournament.
Yeah, tournaments are double elimination. You have to lose 2 matches to be eliminated. So 0-2, while it's the fate of half of the people in the tournament, 0-2 is the worst you can do. Yeah. 0-2 is the bottom.
The way Daigo's sponsorship works, at least, I don't know the specifics, this is just what I've heard, is that it doesn't matter if he gets first or last, he still gets paid from his sponsor. He gets a salary of whatever they bring in. Now, that deal is probably worth justifying as a career, especially if you take a consideration of how much money that is versus how much time you actually work. Because I know people who don't know anything about this probably see it as just playing games, but I'm telling you, as someone who's been doing it for 6 years, or almost 6 years, it is a lot of times it is work. I mean, you're working on the most tedious, meticulous things that can mean the difference between a win or a loss.
I was gonna say, just playing games is a silly way to put it, because I mean, the people playing basketball are just playing games. The people playing football are just playing games. That's a game. It's a game we invented. It's a game we made up. And it requires some sort of physical activity, of course, and muscle development. But this requires reflex development of the mind. If pool can be considered as a sport and broadcast on ESPN because people know how to hit the balls and do amazing shots, this is no less. This, in my mind, is like relevant to pool. Like it's all about precision.
Yes.
And if that can be broadcast on ESPN and treated as a real sport, this should too, because it takes no less. It's happening in your fingertips, but it takes no less in the mind than many other sports.
Right. And that's kind of a big, not to get too far from Brady's video. I mean, that's basically what Brady was saying, and I think me and you are in agreement on what he was saying, that what we said before, that each generation does sort of forget and maybe doesn't appreciate what older players have done. But that's sort of like a debate, right? That's whether esports or video games should be considered a sport. Well, then you have to define what a sport is.
Well, did you see just a few weeks ago that the Olympics are currently voting and considering on including esports in the very next Olympics? The Olympic Committee is online, but the Olympic Committee right now is debating including like games like Dota 2 and League of Legends that have like 300 actions per minute. They're debating on including these games in the Olympics. They're debating on including gaming in the Olympics.
Okay, first of all, I laugh because just hearing from my perspective people's opinion on whether video games should be considered a sport or not, it's just funny to me that video games is being considered to be an Olympic sport.
I mean, if they do that, everybody has to shut their mouth, right? And that's...
a part of me thinks that Brady is right in what he's trying to say, but another part of me is saying, don't worry so much about it.
You have to, though. Like, if you're going to dedicate yourself to it, you have to worry about it. And here's what the fighting game community has to do. Because, hearing from the last podcast, you could probably guess that I'm a big fan of capitalism and not big on egalitarianism. Just because what we do is hard doesn't mean we should be rewarded with money. The best way to put it is that, people want to pay Tom Brady because they want to watch Tom Brady. I'm talking about the real Tom. I'm the football player, not MK Tom Brady. I realize that's muddying up the example. I wish I'd said been wrong. But if you want to pay, to touch on something earlier, people want to pay Floyd Mayweather because they want to watch Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
Maybe they want to watch him lose, but even if you want to watch him lose, you still want to watch him, right?
For sure.
So what the fighting game community has to do, they have to make themselves into a must-watch event. They have to make themselves into that, and they have to convince these companies that can put the big money behind their games why they should do it, that their money will reach people. Because, I mean, if 200 people are going to watch your grand finals, are going to watch your champion, then you're just competing for honor. You're not competing for money because there's not enough people there for anybody to put money behind it. I mean, and that's worthwhile if you've got the resources behind you to do it, but to view it as a career, to do it as a career, the money has to be behind it, and the fighting game community has to do something that brings in big money sponsors and puts that money into these players. I mean, do I think Sonic Fox is any less of an athlete or a competitor than anyone, really? I mean, he doesn't have to do days and days and days building muscle, but he has to do days and days and days building reflexes. He has to do days and days and days building setups. He's an athlete. He's a competitor. And he should be paid as such. And so should everybody that's in his level.
I think that's the tricky thing about it is I think a lot of people would be content with you calling him a competitor, but would have a problem with you calling him an athlete.
And that's one of those things where we're quibbling over subtle differences, very subtle differences.
Well, what is an athlete?
Well, I mean, to me, an athlete's just a competitor. To me, an athlete is somebody who has to train night and day in his sport to compete in it. I mean, are we going to call professional bowlers athletes? They're not risking their life and limb.
Who?
Bowlers.
Yeah.
I mean,
they can hurt their wrist, you know.
But in my mind, they are athletes because they have to train this specific skill to the bleeding edge of its potential. If you have to train a skill to the bleeding edge of its potential, in my mind, you're an athlete.
But if you were to Google the definition of athlete, you get a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise.
All right, so maybe we need a new word for this. Maybe there's one of these points.
What's wrong with competitor? Why do they have to be called an athlete?
Yeah, you know, you could just, you might have the right of it. That does make a lot of sense. You could just call them competitors because, I mean, but to me, to not diverge too far from the point, it's just like that. The money should be there for these people who are reaching the bleeding edge of their potential in a particular thing. The money is there for other people who are reaching the bleeding edge of their potential in a particular endeavor. But it's not there for the fighting game community right now. And what the fighting game community needs to do, and it's not on the community, honestly, at this point, it's on the people who are pushing the games to do this, is they need to reach big money people who will put their money behind these tournaments and make it to where that a player who is top 16, top 32 on a consistent basis is not the kind of person that you don't pay. I mean, because that's one of the best players in the world, dude. I mean, like, what was your placing at Evo? Top 64?
No.
128?
Yeah.
128. Okay, so top 128 at Evo. But only one person using your character placed ahead of you.
As far as I know, yeah.
So, looking at your character, you're top 2.
I don't know about that anymore, but...
Well, Scar's playing her now, so he's probably the best with her because he's Scar. But
Scar taking my character, man. All right.
I mean, Scar's awesome, but
he is. He deserves everything he gets. I think the reason why, if I am correct in that I was the second highest placing for my character at Evolution, that's probably. You could probably attribute that to it being a relatively new game at that time, and the fact that a lot of people who play her now didn't play her then. So
you think that's all it is? All that it is? You don't think that, like, maybe, you know, you were doing a little better than that?
I mean, it's possible, but I can't prove it. I can believe it all I want, but if I can't prove it in a tournament, then I have no reason to say it.
Anyway, point being, to return to my point.
We're dancing around these points today. A
player like you, who is one of the best in the world with this character, right? if you were one of the best, jiu-jitsu fighters in the world, and you were going up against somebody, you would be paid show money. You get more money if you win, but you've got a certain amount of money that you're paid just for coming to fight.
Yeah, but there's just not the money in FGC yet.
And that leads back into Brady's point that you cannot treat the FGC as a career. You can't. Just can't do it. Not right now, because one day, because the money is not consistent. If you're going to support a wife and kids and a family, or you're going to support just buying a house for yourself if you're a single person, the money needs to be consistent. You can't have the money coming in be something you can't rely on.
And something as fickle as if you don't have like a Daigo sponsorship, something as fickle as if you don't place, you don't get paid, and you have to wait another month or more until you go to a next tournament.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it is. And you cannot rely on this. It's not a career, because a career is something you can rely on to supply you with money.
For most people, it's not a career. I think for the people who are sponsored, it is their career right now. But see, I think we agree that it's pretty much just, it's a hobby that has the potential to make money off of.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we were talking about this a few days ago through text, and you said that deciding that something is a hobby, I found this interesting, that's why I wanted to bring it up. You said that to consider something a hobby puts a cap on your personal growth.
Absolutely. I'm agreeing with my own text message here, but
obviously,
but it's like if you don't view something as being able to bear fruit, like if it's just something you do to amuse yourself in your spare time, something you do because it entertains you, you'll never reach the level that you would reach if it was something that's your profession.
Right.
You never will, because if it's something that is your profession, you're gonna pour all your heart and soul into it. That's the dream, right? Is that your profession is something you love. Because if you love your profession, you can pour your heart and your soul into it, and your time.
For some people.
Yeah.
That's a generational thing. That's a generational mindset to have, is because especially like millennials, Generation Y, they found that to enjoy the job that you are doing, to find some sort of fulfillment out of it, is more important than just getting a paycheck. Whereas, for example, the baby boomers, they usually took a job and they kept that job their entire life, whether they loved it or hated it. So for someone to get some sort of fulfillment out of their job, I think is a relatively new thing.
Well, for me, that'd be the dream. Is what I do to make money is something that I love, and if I love that thing, I can really not just my life is something that I can pour my energy to. My work is something I can pour my energy into. But whenever you don't love what you do, you can't really. But right now, you can love fighting games all you want. You can love them. You can make them your passion. You can make them your hobby, but you can't make them a career. And if it has to be a hobby, I feel like the level that, we use guitar playing as an example. I feel like the level that somebody who plays guitar as a hobby can reach, and the level of somebody that plays guitar for a living can reach, are far and away different things. I feel like, I can make it my hobby to play an hour a day, but I'm not going to suddenly be Sinister Gates, who it's been his career, it's his profession, it's what he does. I'm never going to be like that. And I don't think if you view football as a hobby, that you're going to ever reach the level of somebody who can drop a pass on a dime, like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, or, Peyton's retired now, but...
Yeah, but when you get into the discussion of potential, if you have the potential to be, if you could be a Tom Brady tier quarterback, you have that potential, but you never try to make it your career. That's where the confusion kind of lies, is recognizing that you have the potential and then going after it and making it a career.
Right, but I mean, either way you look at it is when you look up like the money's there. Like if you're a hobby level quarterback and you think you're Tom Brady level and you decide to try to reach it, well, if you do reach it, the money's there.
Yeah, that's true.
In the fighting game community, if you're hobby level and you think you're Sonic Fox level, well, you can reach it and the money's there today. That's the thing. It's not a career because a career is something you can rely on.
Short term.
Yeah, it's short term. It's like you can do it for a couple of years. I mean, if I understand it correctly, like Sonic is putting himself through college with his tournament winnings because, you know, he's not an idiot. He's taking this money and reinvesting it in his own future. Right. He's not just taking this money and pretending it's going to be there forever. He literally took this money and stuck it into his own college education because he's not stupid.
As far as we know.
Yeah, well, what I've heard, everything I've heard about him, that's going with everything I've heard about Fox, is that he's paid his own, and Justin Wong did the same, actually. If I remember, one of the stories I heard early on in the FGC is that Justin Wong paid his own way through college with his EVO winnings, and that's impressive. They bought themselves an education. That speaks to you know what it's worth as a career, because the people who are good enough to do it as a career buy themselves an education to do something else with the money they're winning from it. Mm-hmm. If they really thought it was a career, I mean, a great football player, Tom Brady isn't buying himself an engineering degree in case his football career doesn't work out. His football career has already worked out.
Right, but it's, again, I mean, football is another one of those careers that you can't retire from at an old age. As far as football goes, Brady is pretty old.
But if you make that level of money and you're smart with that level of money, you don't ever have to work again. It's
a lot of people go broke after professional sports, though.
Yeah, because they waste a lot of money. But if you're smart with the money they give you, you don't have to work again. It's a difference. It's a difference in whether reaching this level can provide you a life that improves your life, can provide you money that improves your life. I'm sorry.
I wonder at what point. Granted that, you know, you don't go super baller and just throw money everywhere. I wonder at what point of wealth where you literally don't have to work again. I wonder what that is. Because Dana White has said that Ronda Rousey has made enough money that she doesn't have to work again in her life.
I mean, a couple million would do it. A couple million would do it.
Really?
If you were careful. If you were careful, it would do it.
I don't know, man.
If you were careful about your money, it would do it.
I think if you're smart with the different royalties that you have, like a continuous inflow of money even after you're retired. Because I think even if you get, like you said, a couple $1 million and then you all of a sudden stop making money, I don't know about you, but I could go through a couple million and pretty quickly.
I mean, I've lived on a whole hell of a lot less than that for quite some time, but I don't know. It feels like that'd be enough that you could just chill. I mean, you couldn't do anything crazy, but you could stop working.
What about these business owners that are worth billions, but it's still not enough? They have to make more.
Oh, well, that's the human drive for we've reached the peak. Well, where's the next peak? That's what that is. I mean, whenever the richest person in the world wants more money, that's him wanting to reach his potential. Like, is this it? Is this all I can do? Is this the max? And they look out and they go, no, it isn't. All right, I can get even more. It's wow. That's human nature. That's human nature to look at and be like, what am I capable of? Well, they are holding what they got right now and going, is this all I'm capable of, or can I do even more?
We talked about greed last week. Mm-hmm. That's part of it.
Definitely, but I think it's more the piece of human nature that, like, can I do even more? Because we always want more. It's what we are. I mean, we live in the United States of America. There's people who don't have food to eat next week, but we live in the USA, and we know where our food's coming from. We got this down. Kinda. I mean, that's
a different topic.
For the most part, we know where our food's coming from.
Factories.
And we know we're not going to starve next week.
Yeah.
So what's next?
That's
and okay, we know where the roof over our head's coming from. So what's next? And so if you have $1 billion, human nature looks at that $1 billion and goes,
"What's next?
What's next?" Exactly. What's next? I mean,
so it's just a never-ending thing. So it we'll always be looking for how to improve everything about our lives.
I mean, and look at us as a society, man. We landed on the moon, and what do? We ask. We don't get me started. We land on the moon, and what do we ask? When's Mars?
Yeah, but we never went back to the moon. That's the weird thing.
And here's the crazy thing: George W. Bush actually started a project to get us back to the moon. He wanted to go back to the moon.
Until they told him that, he's like, sorry, Mr. Bush or Mr. President, we didn't go to the moon, so we can't go back.
No, actually, it got killed. The Obama administration, they slashed it for the mission to Mars.
I feel
it actually got slashed.
I feel I should disclose that I don't think that the moon landings were faked. I'm just trolling John.
Yeah, he's trying very hard to get me to bite because he knows me, and I'm just refusing. I will not get into that. The moon landings are real.
I don't know, man. Anyway, so I have a question for you.
I was literally chewing my fingernails trying not to bite back there.
I have a question for you. Now I want you to think before you answer, okay? Don't just blurt it out. What age, if you could, what age would you go back to for 1 month?
For 1 month? 16.
You didn't think about it.
I don't have to.
Well, why 16? And it's only for 1 month.
Ah, shit, I should have thought about it.
Yeah, see? God, no one listens.
Okay, it's not 16. Strike that answer from the books.
Okay. So for 1 month, let's say that you say, just for example, not trying to plant anything, let's say you say 5 years old. Well, for that month, you're 5 years old, but you have all the knowledge and experience that you have today. That's, I'll put it that way.
I would go back to 19.
Why 19?
Okay, 1 year as an adult, but I had everything that I was interested in going at that time. I was both playing guitar and writing music, and I was also boxing and doing that kind of thing too. So I had like two different worlds going at that time. If I could go back to a month as 19 years old, knowing what I know now, I could be ridiculously productive. Like I could really alter the course of my life. Like that's the age where I feel like if I could go back to, I could really alter where I am now from that particular point, more than I could from any prior or successive point from it.
You're 29 now, and anyone
thanks for outing me, Dick.
What?
I said thanks for outing me, Dick.
Are you sensitive about your age?
I'm almost 30, man. It's old.
Almost called you a name, but that would probably get me in trouble this day and age. So you're saying that you'd go back just 10 years ago.
Yeah. Which
isn't long. Not really. Especially the older you get. I can't believe it's almost the end of 2017. Like, it's a weird feeling. So you're talking about going back.
Donald Trump's been president for like 7 months. Like, that's real.
Wow.
Like, we are 7 months into he's not the new president anymore. Like, we are 7 months into the Trump administration. It happens that quick.
I mean, he still has 3.5 years to go, so.
Theoretically, he's getting impeached, dude. My pins be our president within 2 years. Promise you.
Right. Well, we're approaching another topic.
Yeah, like I say anyway, segue.
Okay. So you're talking about going back 10 years, and you think that just 10 years you could alter your life.
Absolutely. Like,
so why can't you now? What's stopping you now? Because 29 isn't that old, man. It really isn't.
I mean, well, shit, I don't know. I've got so many more obligations than I had back then, you know. I've got so many more things that I feel like I have to do.
Right.
And I'm more tired. I don't have the energy I had back then. I could sleep 4 hours a night and be good. Back then, I sleep 8 hours a night. Now I feel like shit. It's like it's not the same.
So 19 for 1 month. This isn't like I said, this isn't a redo of your life. This is just 1 month.
I guarantee you, if I could redo the year, if I could do August of 2017 when I was 19, if I could redo that year.
2017?
2007, sorry.
Okay.
If I could redo August of 2007 when I was 19 years old, if I could redo that particular month, I could alter my entire life.
It's a lot to do in just a month. What you're talking about, at least.
There's like 3 or 4 decisions that lay in that time period that when altered. But then again, who knows? Maybe I alter one of those decisions. I get on a plane one day and the plane crashes. That's the thing. Like, I mean, maybe I changed that shit and now I'm dead. So
I wasn't going to go so deep into saying that what you do in that month affects your life now. I was just talking about for the experience of it.
Oh, well, then I'd just, like, go back to, like, some time period when I could, you know, get laid a lot. Because, I mean, otherwise, what's the rest of that shit worth?
So you just fuck everybody?
Everybody. Everybody who's anybody.
Wow. Okay.
No, it's... We've gone off the rails here. But if it wouldn't affect my life now, I don't know where I'd go back to. I really couldn't answer that question. If it wouldn't affect my life now, honestly, if it wouldn't affect my life now, I'd probably go back to being like 12 or 13 and just enjoy that time period. I'd probably go back to like a summer when I was like a young teenager and just enjoy a 2-month vacation again, where I don't have to do any particular thing. And I get up in the morning and I do what I want to do, and then I go to bed, and then I get up tomorrow and I do what I want to do. I would probably go back and enjoy a month of that. If it wasn't going to affect my life now, that's probably what I would do.
Sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, everybody who's listening, just comment down below to see and tell us what age you would go back to for 1 month. And as we said, it doesn't affect your life now. It's just for the experience of it. You go back with the knowledge and experiences you have now, but you get to experience that age again for 1 month. But since you're going to ask, my age that I would go back to, I believe... Now, granted, I have this question, so I had a little bit more time to think about it. But I think 7 years old, just because I think I have the most peaceful memories of being 7 years old. I don't know. There's that feeling of innocence that you have when you're really young, and the feeling of not having a care in the world. Not really. I mean, your mom might tell you can't do this or have that, but because you say 12 or 13, well, that's right around puberty. And I don't know about you, but puberty sucked. I would not go through that again. Just the mood swings alone.
Yeah, the mood swings don't really bother me because like I still have them as an adult because depression's a motherfucker. But so that never really bothered me. Like the mood swings of puberty didn't really, like, everybody talked about them, but like it didn't hit me the way it hit other people. Because like depression was a thing, so my mood would swing down and just like stay there for 3 months. But I didn't care as long as I could like distract myself with something in the moment. So I would go back to like 12, 13. That was, as long as it's in the summer, like 12 or 13, and we're talking like June or July.
No school.
Like, no school. No school. I don't want to see those people again. I don't want to talk to those people again. They can burn in hell. I don't give a shit. Wow. That nonsensical thing we invented. But
I love you, classmates.
Shit, fuck them all, man.
Damn.
If I'm not still talking to them, fuck them.
I mean, I can't say that I hate any of them like you so clearly feel, but yeah, I agree. If I'm not talking to you now, I pretty much don't have a reason to.
It's one of those things. It's either hatred or apathy. Like, you could show me our high school yearbook and I'd be like, hate, 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 don't give a shit, hate, 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 like that guy, hate, 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 don't give a shit.
Man, you need more love in your life.
Yeah, like 10 years ago. But I'm good now.
Okay.
But I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I know, if you could experience like a carefree summer again, where you get to do what you want to do. I mean, imagine taking a 2-month vacation right now where everything's warm and pretty and you can go wherever you want to go. You can do whatever you want to do for 2 full months. Imagine experiencing that again. Imagine experiencing half of that again. So yeah, I'd go back to like a summer vacation as an early teenager. That's what I do.
I do have a feeling that would be a popular answer. It's just a time where stress wasn't an issue, obligations wasn't an issue. Just a time, whatever you have in your memory, where you felt truly relaxed. Because, I just went to Las Vegas for Evolution, like I mentioned earlier. It's been over a month now, right?
A little more, yeah.
And my wife came with me. And because we were going to be there for, I think, 5 days total, and the first 2 days I was doing the tournament, so it was basically a vacation. But even though it was a vacation, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, is that anytime you go on a vacation, you still feel like you have to do things. You can't just relax. Not really. Just like, oh, we have to go see this. Oh, we have to be here at this time. We had a reservation at Gordon Ramsay Steak. That was one of the things that my wife said she just had to do, and I'm not going to complain at all. But
it sounds delicious.
Oh yeah, we got the 5th anniversary. It was like the hold on, I actually have the menu here. Hold on a second. Okay, yeah, it was the 5th anniversary tasting menu for Hell's Kitchen. It says, well, I'm not sure if it's Hell's Kitchen or Gordon Ramsay Steak, the restaurant, but it said
It'd be
Hell's
Gordon
Kitchen.
Ramsay Steak because Hell's Kitchen started like 10 years ago, not 5.
That's what I thought, but on the menu it says Hell's Kitchen 5th anniversary tasting menu. So I don't know.
Maybe it's the 5th year they did it there.
But we got the tasting menu. It was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 5 courses, and we also got the wine pairing with it as well. Now, I'm not going to lie, it was a lot of money, but it was worth every single penny. But what I was saying is that we had a reservation there because you just can't walk into that place. So even though we were on vacation, we still had, we had to be at places at certain times. We have to go see this today and go see that tomorrow. You never really feel relaxed anymore. And that's why I picked 7, because that's, in my memory, that was the last time that I truly felt completely relaxed.
See, and I picked teenage years because that's when the video games are the most awesome, and that's pretty much it. When the video games were the most awesome.
When was this? We were 12, 13, so that would have been 2001, 2002?
12, 13 for me, yeah, 2001. So I had like all my old games that I was really into, and also like the all the Final Fantasies would be out at that point.
I never played Final Fantasy.
Oh, well, all the good ones. Anyway, that's another topic for another time. That you never played Final Fantasy. I mean, Jesus, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was a requirement.
I mean, I just took one of your nerd cards, but don't worry about that.
Okay. I have so many left over. It's fine.
But they were great games. They actually just released 12 on PSN. You should play that one.
I absolutely have no desire.
You should. It's a good game.
I'm not saying that I'm just not interested because I've never played them. So I got to tell you, though, Have you? I told you to download this game a few days ago. Have you downloaded Just Cause 3 yet?
Yeah, but I haven't touched it. Not yet.
Well, I mean, it's like a year or two old, but dude, it's so fun. It's so in a weird way, it relieves stress because like the objective of the whole game is to just destroy shit.
Well, okay, so it's just like Just Cause 2.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Just Cause 2. So, but I think I can't remember Just Cause 2, so I can't really compare them accurately. But yeah, you should get it. It's really fun.
I've got it. It's on my screen like right now as a game I can play. I've already downloaded it. I just haven't played it.
Okay.
So we've gone on like a wild tangent away from the FGC thing, but I think we reached a consensus. Like, he's right. It's not a career. It's really not at the present moment.
Yeah.
When only the person who's making a living is the one who's winning every single week. I mean, because the guy who's ranked 10th in the UFC is still making good money. The guy who's ranked 10th in the FGC is making zero. It's so...
I kind of don't want to compare UFC to fighting games, though. I mean...
I don't, but I do. Because, like, there's a skill set... and it's very difficult, and you're not risking your own physical health, but you are competing. So maybe it shouldn't be the exact same money, like we're quibbling over what the numbers are, but somebody who's like the 10th best in the world at anything, in my mind, they should be getting paid. So I mean, going into this, just to segue here a little bit, because I feel like we'd be remiss to not talk about it a little bit, given what week it is and what's going on in the world right now. As an American, how do you feel about what's happened in Charlottesville and the few days post?
Well, I mean, in all honesty, I heard something was happening, but I didn't look into what was going on until today because I saw, of course, the Barcelona attacks, which is just as horrific or more horrific. A lot of people died. But the Charlottesville one was, as far as I understand it, this was Charlottesville, Virginia.
Correct.
And they were trying to take down a statue of Robert E. Lee. Is that right?
The government was already doing it, and the right-wing end of it, which was mostly backed by the American Nazi Party, or neo-Nazis, and the KKK, showed up to demonstrate against that.
Okay, so where did it turn south?
Okay, it turned sour with Antifa also showed up, and a whole lot of left-wing protesters.
Anti who?
Well, Antifas.
Okay.
Do you know who they are?
Yeah.
Okay, they showed up, and from every report I can read right now, they're the ones that got violent first, the left wing. I mean, they literally could have got everything they wanted without even showing up. The statue would have come down, like the right wing would have like stood out there and waved their little tiki torches and done nothing of use. And it would have just passed away, and the monument would have come down because the government wasn't going to listen to these idiots. But the violence was apparently, from everything I can read, begun by Antifas. But it doesn't really matter, because I feel like I'm watching, as an American right now, in our country, a version of the brown shirts and the red shirts from Germany in the 1930s, where the brown shirts were supporting fascism and the red shirts were supporting communism, and the majority of the country are going, you're both nuts. But eventually somebody supporting fascism comes into power, and it's really weird to me to see these two groups going at it like this when they really don't have to. Government's already kind of leaning toward getting rid of these things, these monuments to failure. In my mind, I mean, in my mind, a Civil War monument is a monument to losing a war, and that's just how I see it.
Didn't they already ban flying Confederate flags somewhere?
South Carolina.
That's right.
That was where they took the monument down. That was after the Dylan Roof thing, where he shot up that church just to kill black people because he's insane.
You know what's interesting when you were telling me about this is that you said that the left was sort of the aggressors and that the right, or the neo-Nazis rather, were doing sort of a peaceful protest. Is that right? Because I remember seeing that
there's two different ones. I got to get the location right on the first one, but there's one where apparently a bunch of the neo-Nazis, and when I say the right, I mean the extreme far end of the right. I don't mean people who are constitutional conservatives. I'm not talking about you people, if you're listening.
The extreme form of being right-wing.
Yeah, there's a far right that even a normal Republican goes, Jesus, man, you're crazy. I'm talking about these people. Well, those people got together, and apparently they were carrying around a bunch of tiki torches at night, and they were beating people in the streets who accosted them or did anything to them. And apparently the police did nothing.
The right was doing this?
On one right before the Charlottesville protest. And that's one of these things where I'm just why are you doing that? Why is that a thing in 2017? I mean, we're smarter than this now. We know better.
Well, why take place in a protest that is not going to change anything? They're still going to take down the statue. What's the mentality behind going out to protest, whether it's peaceful or aggressive?
I guess just to demonstrate your viewpoint, because if you're passionate enough about it, I guess if Robert E. Lee is your hero, and I don't know what you're gonna affect with that, but I guess you want to demonstrate your outrage, and that's cool. But people are gonna come to demonstrate their outrage toward your viewpoints because, I don't know, you're neo-Nazis in the KKK.
Well, here's the thing that it kind of has me thinking is that if they hadn't have been whoever started it, whatever happened that caused it to get ugly, if that hadn't happened, no one would have given a shit about the protest. So it just makes me think, first of all, why protest? Because no one will listen, no one cares. They didn't get on the news because they were protesting. They got on the news because someone died and a lot of people got injured.
I was gonna say there's literal bloodshed here. Yeah, we're talking. The best way I can put it right now is just to look at it and go we've literally lost a human being over this, over a statue, over an idea.
Well, I think the idea part is more the reason.
But it's frustrating to me to look at that and realize, and there's no sign of slowing down right now in our country. There's no sign of it chilling out, because whenever our politicians are given a moment to speak on it, they don't even do a good job of disavowing people who...
That's the Trump meme of shame on you that I see floating around.
Yeah, that's what you see floating around. I was trying not to drop his name because, God, man, I'm disgusted. But
Trump? You don't want to drop Trump's name?
Yeah, I'm trying not to, because it's I'm just disgusted at this point that the leader of the free world, when in his speech that got aired on CNN, 10 seconds in, he slips up and says the word "us" in reference to the neo-Nazis and the KKK that were there. He said, what about the far left that charged at us? And then he rephrases it to take the word "us" out of the sentence. He said that. He looks at neo-Nazis and the KKK, and he says the word "us." I'm done. Right there. Impeach this dude. Let Mike Pence run this shit. Because, I mean, do I agree with Mike Pence's politics? Hell no. Do I think he's a Nazi? Also no. So that's cool. Impeach this dude and let Mike Pence run this shit. I mean, like, the disgust, it's hard for me to be rational talking about it. Because, I mean, racism is repugnant on a level that I can't fully express, but it's just like it spits in the face of logic more than anything I could ever think of. Like, no matter which angle you approach it from, right? Whether you approach it from evolution or Christianity or Islam, no matter what angle you approach racism from, it doesn't work. Because if you approach from a Christian standpoint or any standpoint where there's a single creator, then God made white people and God made black people. You're going to say God liked the white people he made more than the black people he made? Bullshit. He made people, and they don't all look the same. So you're going to pretend you're better. Bullshit. So it doesn't flow down that stream. If you're going to float on evolution stream, then people are darker in certain areas of the world because they evolved in areas of the world where the sun beamed down more and their skin needed to be darker to handle the amount of sunlight their skin had to deal with.
I thought they disproved that. I thought the recent discovery was the reason why you have people who are lighter skinned was because of agriculture.
Oh, I haven't actually seen that one. That might be more recent than anything I've read. Now, but,
I'm not even going to attempt to explain it because I just don't know enough about it. But apparently, in places where there were a lot of agriculture, you get people with lighter skin. But like I said, I don't know enough about it to actually explain it. So that's just what I heard.
All right, but so. That could be the current facts, and I could be behind a little bit. But operating from at least what I know and what I've read, if sunlight is the reason, if significant more amounts of sunlight and evolution is the reason that some people are darker and some people are lighter, then where you were born is what made the color of your skin. So you can't be better than somebody based on that because they were born here or born there.
Yeah, what you're saying is that we're all human. Is that no matter what angle you approach it from, racism doesn't make logical sense. All it is xenophobia. This doesn't look like you. This doesn't act like you. So you're gonna label it as other, and you're gonna fear it, and you're gonna rage against it, and rally against it, and protest against it, and push against it. But it's wrong. Well, see, we talked about last week.
These are humans.
Right. Last week we talked about greed being a necessary trait to help us evolve. But don't you think looking at something different than you and, if not fearing it, but being cautious of it is another one of those traits that was necessary back when we were cavemen?
It probably was. It's just one of those things that it's outdated. It's really outdated. Yeah. I mean, because I remember going to college, taking music theory courses, and I remember talking to a dude that was more into heavy metal than me. Thought rap was shit. Dude was black. If you looked at me and him, and my long hair and my heavy metal t-shirts, and him, he had the baggy jeans, he had everything, like every stereotype of how like people think, black people dress, which is totally not true because, some black people wear freaking suits because they like them, just like some white people wear freaking suits because they like them. People do stuff because they like it. It's not actually a skin color thing. We just build these stereotypes because that's what we saw first, right? But he had every stereotype dress-wise and all this, but dude was dead set into metal. It was all he loved musically. And if you looked at this dude, you'd never think that. And if you looked at me, you'd think that within a second. And it reminded me that, we are not what we look like. We are not what society has told us that we have to be because we look like this. Oh, you wear these kind of clothes and you're this skin color and you do this. Well, but you like this stuff. Oh, you like cowboy hats, but you listen to country. No, not necessarily. Like, it's like you can't just judge people based on what they look like, whether it's skin, whether it's clothing, whether it's whatever. You can't just do that anymore. It doesn't work anymore. It worked back then. Like, you walk out and you see people wearing the armor of your enemies and you know, oh crap, those are the people that hate me. You knew it right then, but it's like an outdated impulse of our evolution that is leading us to view another person as other, when, I mean, you look at this person that's literally the polar opposite of your spectrum. They might love the same shit you love. They might, or they might not, but who cares if they do or don't, because you don't know until you talk to them.
I just think, yes, it would be nice that if racism and all forms of prejudice, not just race, if we were able to overcome that and truly accept each other for what we are, and we're all humans, no doubt the world would be a better place. But I just don't know when or how that'll happen. It's a sad, depressing thought, but
I mean, absolutely. That's how I feel right now. It's like I don't know how we can overcome that, because I mean, I look at my own views on the world. I don't care what color your skin is. I care how you treat other people.
Right.
I don't care who you bend the knee to and pray to. I care how you treat other people. I don't care who you take to bed. I care how you treat other people. And I feel like that's logical. Like, how you treat other people is your actual tangible gift to the world. You know, all that other shit is just what you popped out of the womb with, and who gives a shit what you popped out of the womb with? Because that's not you. That's just what you were given. What you choose to do is more important than what you just pop out with.
Yeah. Well, I think we took a very depressing turn. I think we should lighten it up a
bit. We probably should. You're probably right.
So, I don't know. What's some lighthearted things that you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about nuclear war.
Let's not talk about nuclear war. I think we've had enough depressing shit for 1 week.
No, I mean, well, here's the thing. Like, we view what we just talked about as depressing, right? But I feel like more people think the way we were just talking about than think we're actually all, you know, something other. Like, the white people are better than black people, or black people are better than white people, or, you know, Christians are better than Muslims, or Muslims are better than Christians. I feel like more people think like us than think like that. I feel like more people think like we're all just people. So I don't actually view what we were talking about as like a full depressing. No, we were talking about the depressing end of it, but the reality of it is, like, when I walk outside of my house and I talk to people in the real world, I don't hear this shit. I don't see this shit.
That's a product of your surroundings. There's some places in the world where that's all they hear.
Possibly. But what I'm just going to get to there is that this isn't some sort of absolute we can't escape. We can be good to people regardless of how we agree with them. We can be good to people regardless of whether we look like them. And they can be good to us too. And there you see a lot of things in the world that are really, really good. Like, we talk about the divisions and tensions in the world. Well, they're there. But there was also in Egypt, after a terrorist attack, a whole bunch of Muslims got together and actually linked hands in front of a Christian temple. We're talking like an 80% Muslim country now, Egypt.
Yeah.
They got together and they linked hands and formed a circle around the place where the Christians were going to pray, so that nobody who was a terrorist could get there. These people stood up for people they didn't agree with. And there's a lot of people in this world doing a lot of beautiful things out of these differences. I mean, I don't have to agree with you to be good to you. So we talk about a lot of the negative, but look how many good things are happening in the world right now too. And it's one of these things where like the media and a lot of news outlets, they're going to sell the negative because the negative is meant to draw your eye, because that's how our brains work. Like we look for the threat first because, well, that's a survival instinct. Oh, what's a threat? Look over there. You're going to look at the tiger before you look at the tree, because the tiger's a threat, the tree's not.
Right.
You're going to look at all this bad stuff before you look at the good stuff, but there are some really good things happening in this world right now too. There are people being good to each other out of these tragedies. There are people responding to this in really positive ways. So while what we're talking about sounds really depressing, it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. I mean, the conversation we're having doesn't come without this negative. And I feel like more people would hear the positive than hear the negative, because I guess I've always viewed myself as a bit of a pessimist, but I guess I'm a bit of an optimist in this particular case. I feel like more people will look at this division and see how we're the same than they see how we're different.
Well said. I think we can end that there. Thanks for joining us this time. Next week, we're going to be talking about the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Can't wait for that one. My name is Sean.
And I'm John.
Thanks for joining us. See you next week. Thanks. You would think so, but what other...
I mean, Nazis are still talking, but they should shut their mouths.
What?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Nazis.
Shitty segue. Edit this entire 2 minutes out.
I'm not editing shit.
Edit shit. Edit it. Please edit it.